like for the party. Say I feel like
It's the Culture Drive with KG and Tony P.
Hey, so that's right, TNT, you're inside the Culture Drive, 26 after the hour, 3 o'clock. KG, Tony P, on a sort of overcast day in the Southland.
Yeah, but we bring in the heat, you know. It's
the fire.
Yeah, inside it's hot in here.
Throwback Thursday. And of course, want to welcome our first guest.
Yes.
Royalty. Royalty is in the house, and it's my pleasure to introduce you Trinidad and Tobago and the world, Mr. Brian McFarlane.
Welcome to WCK.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here down in the Southland.
That's right.
I don't do this very often, so you are very honored that I'm down here.
We get through.
Of course, once again, welcome to 90.1 FM, the True Nation station. Always, we are the station that holds and, really uplifts the culture of TNT.
Yeah.
And you are one of the individuals who, when you look at your body of work, you felt that passion. You saw in your portrayals, that this is someone who is not just about, let's say, it's not just about making mass, but it was always about telling a story,
yeah.
And uplifting people.
Yes.
All right, but, first of all, let's start at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Brian McFarlane. Who is Brian McFarlane?
Wow, I heard when I came here today, it's half an hour I have. That is about 3 days we're talking about. We're going to try and crunch this.
Since you don't do this often now, let me break it out.
Let's try and crunch this.
Yeah, so Brian McFarlane, 15 years old, leaving school, walking out at the age of 15, very much not involved in the academics, very slow in school, many reasons, being dyslexic. You never lose out, you're dyslexic, and I'm glad I speak about it because there's so many kids and youth now at colleges and convents that I talk to and lecture to who are also dyslexic and afterwards come and talk to me, and they're so excited to know all that I have accomplished and all the possibilities that they have in life, and there really are no setbacks and nobody is a loser. So being dyslexic, as I said, being very sickly as a child, every month having very high fever, actually being delirious. Some 3 or 4 years into that, my parents, when they were able to afford, were able to take me to Florida and have certain tests done to find out what was wrong. And it would prove that I had certain allergies, and they were hoping to mix this serum that I would come back, send to Trinidad, and I'll have injections every week. My parents couldn't afford that. But as I got older, I kind of grew out it, and the doctor said as you grow up adolescence, sometimes you grow out of these things, which I did. So there were a lot of challenges, and I was very backward in school and bullied on and taken advantage of. And at the age of 15, I just felt I couldn't do this anymore. I needed to do something in my life. And I knew I always wanted to do something that was creative, something in the field of art and design. So I left school, and the very next day I got up. I loved gardening, and I still do. I have a beautiful garden, love the koi pond. And I got up the next day and mowed the lawns, did all the edges of the garden and so on, and took a taxi straight down to Raul Garvey's Mass Camp.
When you decided to leave school, how did that go with your parents?
My mother, I walked home, which I always did every evening, walked to Pity Valley from St. Anthony's College, and I walked home knowing very well I was not walking back that way the next morning. And told my mother, and she was pretty cool, and I think mothers most of the time kind of know what their children are going to do and kind of know somewhat the destiny of their children. So my mother was pretty cool, and she knew that I was progressive, and she knew that it wasn't I was just dropping out of school to do nothing. I had an aim. I was going to do something with my life because I felt I was going nowhere fast with what I was doing. My father, on the other hand, was a little more irate, and I could hear it in the night, and in the bedroom, kind of crawling about, and he's saying like, "Well, how could you let him leave school?" Da, 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 da. But as I said, next morning, took a taxi down to Raul Garvey's Mass Camp. In those days, we were in Cornelius Street, and it was the very second year that Raul Garvey was coming out.
Yeah.
And I worked some 3 or 4 years voluntary with him, and after the first 2 weeks, the designer and Brenda Gareb, who's now deceased, good friends of mine, came and said, where did you learn all of these abilities of textures of fabric and colors and how to mix and blend these things? So they would just put projects out, and we'd have to kind of come up with what we were doing. And in 2 weeks' time, I was moved from Cornelius Street to Woodford Street, where the kings and queens were, and the individuals. And in those years, individuals were like kings and queens, were massive costumes. And I'm not saying I had anything to do with it, but it was the only year that Gary won Queen of the Band, and I worked on the Queen that year and whatnot.
Let's go back a little bit. Where did you learn?
I didn't. This is all.
Was it something natural?
This is all natural. I mean, my brother on his side there, which is Tony, could tell you, a very strong spiritual sense that I have in my whole being, and I know it's a God-given gift, Wow. So I have a great talent that I use to the fullest. So yes, I got involved and I worked 3 years with them, and I always make a joke about it. Never got paid. We got 2 meals a day, and we were lucky if we got meat in one of the meals.
Okay.
But learned wonderful things, great things, and then moved on from there. And there was a friend of mine who worked in the mass camp, and he would do wedding cakes, ice cakes. So when he would leave on a night at 1 o'clock in the morning, some mornings he would say, "Brian, you want to come keep my company? Well, I have 2 weddings this week, and I have one ice these cakes." So I would go up by him in Pity Valley and just watch him. And about 3 months after that, my youngest sister was getting married, and I came and I said, "Great, I'm going to do the cake." And they all started laughing and joking. "What cake? What do you know about doing icing cakes?" I said, "Well, I've been watching for 3 months." "But watching is what?" "Well, So I went out and bought all of the tools, and I did the cake. And in those days were all these massive structures, but it was like 7 tiers with a fountain in the center, and these are the cakes coming out from the side. And it was a week before Christmas, so actually, naturally, it had to be red, white, and green. And what was amazing, that all the guests came into the wedding. It was about 200 guests, and it was at the Holiday Inn at that time. And the guests all stood around the cake and started applauding the work I'd done, and forgot about the bride and the groom, which was kind of strange. So that kind of propelled a career, and it reached a point where I was doing 5 and 6 weddings on a weekend. And then in June of 1983, he had given all these years, because then people realized how young I am. But in 1983, I asked the manager of West Mall, Patrick Walsh, if I could have put on a cake exhibition. So I borrowed back 7 of the cakes I'd done that weekend. And one was like this huge horse and carriage, one was a Japanese fan, and European temple, and all these different types of structures. So I stayed up all night in the mall in West Mall preparing this decor and doing, I went to excellent stores and got all of these Christmas lights and took out all the color lights and kept just the ambers and whites and put it in ficus trees, did this whole decor. And next morning, people came out, and I heard people kind of laughing. What, Christmas in June, these little lights and trees? It's the first time people had seen these little white lights and trees, which is what you see all over Trinidad in weddings and everywhere now. This is 1983. And the management was so impressed with the display, they came and said, "Would you like to tender for Christmas that year?" Which I did for 1984. And out of 7 tenders, one was Wayne Barkley. I won it. And since then, we've been doing malls every year. I still do malls now, Martinique, St. Lucia, Guadeloupe, Trinidad and Tobago. So that became a big part of the business.
Okay.
But in the back of my mind, I always knew that I wanted to get involved in mass. And as a young boy, my parents would always take the family to the corner of Dundonald Street, and I think it's Gordon Street, I could be wrong. And on the corner there was my grandparents' house, and we'd watch mass there Monday and Tuesday. And I didn't really like going to the town for it because I wasn't too much into the crowds, but I loved the creativity, I loved the costuming of those days. And I remember one year, and I might have been about 9, and my sister might have been about 6, and Stephen Leong's band is coming down Dundonald Street. And the glory of those days was that mass went anywhere. There was no restrictions as we have today that you follow a route. So mass was all over the streets of Port of Spain. And the band that was coming down the street was Stephen Leong's band, designed by Carlisle Chang, China the Forbidden City. And today I still remember that so vivid as a little boy. And my mother saying to us, "Kids, let's go and take a little chip in the barn." And she held my sister's hand in my hand. We went in the center of the barn. And I'm there in this very surreal setting, seeing these masqueraders coming down, men with these artificial big Buddha bellies, rubbing them, chipping to calypso coming down the road, and the women chipping with the calypso, the little oriental fans. And I'm saying to myself, very short, very small, looking at all these masses of things around me, the big standards they would have in those days. And I'm saying that, this is just so powerful. It's like theater. They're not on a stage performing, but they're performing on the street. And there and then, at that young age, I understood what the theater of mass was. And was very energized by it, and knew then that one day I would have my own carnival band. So it was born at that point in time.
Do we still have that theater of mass?
We have the theater, the bodies. I see them all fours, hand and leg on the ground, and waist over waist, and this over that, and that over that. And I presume it's some kind of theater going on. XXX theater.
Because, you said that your experience back in the day, going to a mass camp, and you learned so much from that experience.
But it was also more than the learning. There was a wonderful, beautiful thing in a mass camp of the older days where it was so much about a community spirit. You go there and you meet people from all walks of life and all races, and there's just this bond that happens. And everybody knows that they're working for a purpose of that band hitting the street in its most glorious form. And not even so much about going out there to win, but going out there to show or to project what that theme was for that particular year, and working as a unit as one unit, as a community, and people bringing different little things in to cook, and the pot smelling and cooking inside of there, and people sharing, and it was that whole wonderful community spirit, which is something that McFarlane's Carnival Band did up to 2 years ago before my last year, where we would still have that, the pot cooking in the kitchen and the community type thing, and I encouraging schools to come from kindergarten level up to university level, and we actually had universities coming in from Canada, USA, London, doing carnival art studies, and would come to hear me speak and lecture on the mass and see what was actually being made, try on costumes, take pictures, and a lot of international media as well, the staff from Toronto, and many others came down and did wonderful interviews on the mass,
The mass. All right, so that's right, TNT. We're inside with Mr. Brian McFarlane. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break. And, after the break, when I get back, I have our question of the day for you.
Sure.
All right? And also, we're going to invite you guys to, give us a call and, engage. We're going to engage with Mr. Brian McFarlane right here on 90.1 FM. All right, keep it locked. We'll be right back. It's the Culture Drive.
Alive and well, what me say? Easy life for the party. Easy life for the
Pleasant good afternoon, sir. Where are you heading today?
Boss, Miami. I go in Miami. Last year I went to Miami in white. That boat ride was the best. So this year I'm going back, but this year is denim and white. So that's why I go in. Saturday 11th of October I go in Miami, denim and white. Miami I go in.
I'll have to search your bag, sir.
All inside of there is my white shoe, my pants and our shoes. And here I carry a shirt for my partner Desmond.
Okay, I see your shirt, I see your pants, and I see your shoes, and I see a sheet.
Boss, I don't know shit. That Desmond shirt. Why you always so, but you can make the man feel, big man, that the man shirt. Don't see that hard now, boy. Remember, it's Miami denim and white boat ride. Saturday, 11th of October. Miami, coming. Look out.
We gon' have fun.